Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel and the MMA Detective Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
Hey, Miguel back here on the Lights Out podcast, and I'm back. That's the MMA Detective Mike Davis, as you guys know. And Chris is hovering around here. He's going to join us, and we will be joined for another deep dive here. Gray Maynard. I'm excited about this one because, sometimes I have a connection to the guys. They've worked with me before, or, with Gray Maynard, I don't have any of that. And that makes it a challenge for me, but I do know we're getting a top shelf competitor one way or another. So I'm excited. Mike, what do we got? What's going on here?
So, Miguel, you absolutely would have been limited to work with Gray Maynard in the past due to the fact that he's only got 3 fights outside of the UFC. So when you look at the totality of his record, it's somebody that's been primed from a very young age to excel at combat sports. And that's what Gray Maynard is. So I got through his record at a really fast pace. And we got about 25 hours of pre-prep into him. And we were able to cram it all in order to fast track it. But yeah, Gray Maynard, he's he fought at the highest levels of competition, and it's going to be a good interview. We're going to be able to shine some lights on certain aspects or components of a pro athlete that most interviewers aren't able to pull out of the interviewee. However, guys, the only way this thing works is by your help. Give us 5 stars on iTunes. Write anything you want. We don't even care what you say. Just give us 5 stars. It helps with the algorithms. Like, share, subscribe on YouTube. If you guys do that, it's like giving us money. It's helping this podcast grow. So if you guys could do that, we'll keep pushing these things out.
And we're going to be joined here shortly by Gray Maynard. Very excited to do this interview. One of the top competitors and top contenders in the 55 category since they bought it back, basically. So without further ado, Gray Maynard.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you. Another deep dive here. Super excited about this. I love it when we good guys on here. This is one of the great ones. You've seen him fight many times. Some of the most memorable title fights, especially some great barn burners. Great fan. Gray Maynard. Gray, how you doing, bub?
I'm doing great.
Good,
living the life.
No see. Like I said, we've been talking a little bit here, a little bit off camera. I'm sure most people know a little bit about your background, but by the way, Miguel, Mike is going to be helping me here. They're going to be doing it. I'm just going to throw a little bit of comments in here, but everybody knows a little bit about your background. Why do you tell us a little bit about that before we get started? How did you get into fighting? What led you to this?
I started wrestling when I was about 3 years old. Jumped around, different sports, but around 7th or 8th grade, I went to a tournament to where I saw guy named Tom Brands. He's the head coach at Iowa, and just the way he wrestled was so physical and brutal, and his mentality that it just made me quit every other sport and concentrate on wrestling. And in Nevada, wrestling's pretty decent, but I made a deal with my dad. He was a 2-time state champ in Ohio, that if I won state my 10th grade year and I ran through all the competition, he would get me back there to St. Ed's, where wrestling is a lot tougher, and I wanted to test myself. And after 10th grade, I packed up my 88 Subaru and went out to Ohio and jumped around, to people's houses, and went to school out there for 2 years. Took second in state my junior year, took state my senior year. I was a high school, national champ. And then I went to Michigan State. I was on the team with, you probably know this name, Rashad Evans.
Heard of him,
maybe.
Yeah. So, he was my boy. And then I went out to Arizona to try out for the 04 Olympic team. And, that's just a tough road. You got to have a lot of stuff lined up, and just didn't quite make it. Rashad hit me up. He said he was getting into MMA, and that struck me as like, that's interesting. And then when I moved back home to Vegas after 2004, I was jumping around, just trying out the jiu-jitsu stuff. And I guess word got back to BJ Penn that I was pretty good, just kind of with the takedowns. And he called me up, and I had no idea who he was, but it was a trip to Hawaii. I was like, yeah, let's do this. And when I went to Hawaii, I really caught that bug, like the sport's cool. I like it.
Was he just bringing you out for a camp to help him for a camp or something?
Yeah, he was going up against a Gracie in Japan, and he didn't want to get a takedown. He didn't want to get, he wanted to keep it up, and he did good. He won that one. And then after coming back from Hawaii, one of my Greco buddies hooked me up with Couture, and just jumped in that room. He was jumping around gyms because he had just moved there, and Jay Huron was there, Mike Powell, Forrest Griffin. There was about 10 of us. And
you got there just after Shawn Tompkins, am I correct?
No, Shawn Tompkins we kind of started it all. Couture,
okay, he came after
Couture and everybody. Yeah, Shawn Tompkins had come out there. He was helping Dan Henderson, and there was a hookup, and then he started flying me out to Canada to help Hominick, to help Stout. Yeah, so Shawn Tompkins. And then that connection started, and then he ended up coming to Extreme Couture when we got the gym going. So
at this point, are you even fighting? Or are you just helping people train and preparing to fight? Have you even fought?
Yeah, I was just helping people train and prepare, and I had an amateur fight against Evan Dunham up in Oregon. Yeah, wow. They kind of, and
that's
I won
a tough fight.
Benchmade knife. Yeah. So it was good. It was a barn burner, and then the next fight.
Who promoted that? Who promoted that?
Sport fight.
Randy. Yeah, it was Sport Fight. It was Matt Lindland and Randy. It was in the Rose Garden.
Oh, okay.
Did they know how good Evan Dunham was then, or they just think they're throwing it in you with some guy? They know he was good.
No, like Randy and Matt Lindland aren't really strategic on, trying to build anybody up. They're just like,
you in with the toughest, and whatever happens.
Yeah.
They're old school.
He was already, he already had like 10 or 12 amateur fights, and he was doing good. I mean, he was a skilled guy. And the next fight was
one second. So great. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. So like when we go through the fights, we try to kind of catch them in order. Yeah. So that Evan Dunham fight, how did you win? Was it a decision?
Decision, yeah. He's a durable guy. He's
really,
yeah. He was really durable, and it really got me to understand the pace of MMA compared to the pace of wrestling. Because I remember going in the back room, throwing up, like because
Did you win the third round?
Yeah, I probably did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me kind of frame this just properly. So his first amateur fight, and Gray, I'm going to be honest with you, your career reeks of having a manager, like a high-end manager, immediately. Because if you follow the trajectory of your career, it's very fast. Like, for instance, your first amateur fight's April 8, 2006, a sport fight against Evan Dunham. And for people at home to kind of understand how good Evan Dunham was, 8 fights after that bout, he's in the UFC.
Yeah.
So you won all 3 of those rounds. Am I correct?
Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure, I controlled him a lot.
Yeah, I look for that video everywhere. It doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
I got it on DVD.
You should put it on
Pretty
YouTube.
good. Yeah, it was a good fight. It was fun.
Yeah. So then
Yeah.
from there, like if you look at April 8th, 2006, and then April 24th or April 21st, 2006, he's in Des Moines, Iowa, fighting for the title fight championship where he fought Joshua Powell.
Yeah. Here's a quick story on that though. The promoter,
and that's your pro
he's
debut.
a big he's a big wrestling guy, and he wanted to match up me and Tyrone Woodley, and we were trying to make that happen. He was trying to make that happen, which it was you know, I think Tyrone was just getting started, and you know,
He was training with Mike Rogers at the time.
Yeah, I don't really know if he was kind of into it, you know, just going up against another wrestler, and you know, so but yeah, that was the guy who I was supposed to, you know, go up against, and then
I'm
last
kind of
minute.
thinking maybe Randy and them didn't like you, so they're just saying we're trying to save the hardest fight possible.
And I would say that they didn't either if I didn't know them, but they would do the same thing. So that's why I was okay with it.
Okay,
Chris, they almost took the Theory Sokuju route, except for a 155 pounder.
Yeah,
With great, like it's, if you really kind of look at his record, that's where it's at. So the title fighting championship, you get through Joshua Powell quick. Like, you get your first finish too, which is super important. And then Chris, June 10th, 2006. He's in Jamie Levine's show WEF against Brent Weedman in Las Vegas. So he's got 3 fights in about 2 months, and then he goes to the Ultimate Fighter. So it was almost like a rush to get him the fights that he needs, because he already had a UFC contract probably before, you know, he had his first pro fight.
I've trained with Weedman. That dude, he's a stud, man. He's really good.
Brent
from down
Weedman,
Kentucky.
he is tough. He was tough. He went up against Askren for the Bellator title, and he's kind of like the Evan Dunham, you know, and I'm going out there in my mind, I'm gonna finish these guys, and you know, like I should be walking through these people, and you know, those are 2 cats who are durable, you know, and they've already had a lot of fights too, which was cool, you know. It really made me understand how to fight better people pretty quick, you know, and the pace that I need to go at.
Gray, usually you have several earlier fights where you learn how to fight people, and you know, like it's just different. And I mean, you learn how to breathe, how to relax, you learn how to all these little things. You didn't get that opportunity. You had to learn at the highest level, which is very difficult to do. But then again, I guess you were training with great people. But man, that's a tough road to go, man. I'm not hearing any easy fight so far.
With the Joshua Powell fight in between, you scored a TKO, a knockout, or now how are you coming along on your hands? A lifelong wrestler like that? Were you just kind of naturally powerful, or is it something that you put some work into with somebody?
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot of boxing guys, and you know, I was jumping around, definitely interested in it. You know, I kind of have a natural powerful punch, but I don't have like a lot of crack to where you know, kind of natural. You got the natural powerful punch and the natural like knockout power. Right. It's different. Like
it is.
Like mine's a heavy punch, you know, it's not like those, it's just too different. And, you know, I kind of have a heavy punch to where people, you know, get hit and they feel it, you know, and whereas it would have been nice to have a little bit of a knockout punch, but, you know, is what it is. So I try to use the tools I had.
So at this point, Jamie Levine is as a promoter. How was your experience with him?
Nothing. I really didn't have a lot to do with him. You know, I heard good and bads, but you know, I was just there to work. You
Who
know,
was,
he
who
gave
was
me my check
managing you at the
after.
time?
Randy would take care of a little bit of stuff, but you know, it was just me.
That probably helps. So if you got Randy in there, I don't think too many people are ripping Randy off or his people. You know what I mean? So that I guess.
Yeah.
At this point, like I'm looking at it and I'm swearing to Miguel in our pre-fight prep. I'm like, there's no way he wasn't rushing for these fights because he knew he had a shot at the Ultimate Fighter probably before he even had his first pro fight. Did that conversation take place?
No, not really, because the show just kind of took off, you know, and it was all over the place, 170, and then, you know, just that really wasn't in the back of my mind. You know, I was just trying to get in as much as possible, right? Because you know, I did want to go. There was a chance I was almost going to Pride, like right after my Brent Weedman. They had me up to the last couple days. Tompkins was working on getting me in Pride against Aoki.
Oh,
and that's
just really early
they
for
were
you,
kind of
though.
they were just kind of stringing a couple of us along. There was a guy out of Iowa who they took, but you know, I was like I was all packed up, ready to go, and then we get that call. Japan kind of works a little different, you know, especially with Pride, but you know, they kind of strung me along, and then just chose to give the other guy the fight, I guess.
I think at that time we had around 30 fights, and you're coming in at 3. So
yeah.
And
well, he had just broke this guy's arm.
Keith Wisniewski.
Yeah. And so I remember Tompkins, you know, I was like, because it was stringing on for a couple weeks, you know, I wanted to watch a little bit of tape on him, and he's like, no, don't worry about the tape because he broke that guy's arm.
It's horrible.
It's not like I'm gonna it's not like I'm gonna pull out or anything or get, you know, it's just like, all right, you know, and then but that would have been cool to compete in Pride. For sure.
You know? All right, so now he's 3 fights in. Well, I mean, he's got 3 pro fights, 1 amateur fight. I'm sorry, 2 pro, 1 amateur, and there's like an 8-month time off period there.
Yeah.
Was that set up by design, or when did you know you were going to be on the Ultimate Fighter season 5?
No, that was not by design, you know, and Google was kind of killing me because we would try to get in the cage and people would, you know, type in Gray Maynard and you know, 3-time All-American, 1 amateur fight, 2 pros. And, you know, a lot of people were kind of turning it down.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
There's really no upside for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when they
and you're not looking to fight body either. Like you could get a body, but it's going to be, you know, home, but like your home is kind of scattered. Like, didn't you go to 3 different high schools?
Yeah. I went to 3 different high schools.
Was that for academic reasons or athletic reasons?
Academic.
Okay.
No, wrestling, completely wrestling.
Okay, let's say maybe get.
Yeah.
Miguel, this is where you insert your street fight question.
Yeah. No, it was wrestling. In the 9th grade, you know, I went to a school. It was good wrestling, but then I transferred to another school in the 10th grade to get better competition, and then I transferred to St. Ed's to get the best, you know, to go up against the best.
So did your family move with you to St. Edward's?
No,
Cleveland?
No, I jumped around houses, my aunts and uncles. I mean, we definitely grew up struggling, but my parents really believed in my dream and wanted to give me the opportunities, and we just made it happen. You know, I had like a station wagon and drove it out there, and St. Edward's was really great people, and people took me in, and I slept at their house and changed houses, 20 different times probably. But, got to do what you got to do to make that dream happen.
I don't think people can really understand and appreciate, just the level of dedication you've had since high school. I don't know really anybody who would be willing to say, I'm moving from Vegas over to Cleveland just for wrestling. You're a state champ there. Most people would be happy. I'm going to win state a couple more times. You go to a really tough wrestling state just to be actually in probably one of the best wrestling rooms in the country at the time for wrestling. Man, you're dedicating everything for this. And that's why I always think wrestlers make the best fighters, because they already understand that work ethic and discipline. It translates over so good. If you don't wrestle, I don't see how people really do it. But wrestling, you have to have that base, I think, and you had it in spades, it sounds like.
Yeah. It really teaches you how to work on your weaknesses, and be honest with yourself. And, what you put in is what you get out. And I really believe every kid should compete in like wrestling, because you're going out there on a mat all alone, and it really is eye-opening to what you need to work on and how you need to do it, and that's basically get in the room and work hard.
Wow. So, I love it. I love it real quick. I'm just watching, I've been around wrestling forever, watching. You got these kids will be like 6, 7, they're wrestling. They go out there and they're getting beaten, they're crying and all this. And then you see them the next year, maybe a little bit, but they learn, then it is what it is, man. You got to work as hard as you can. You get better in the room, you dedicate, and, they by the couple of years, they're not crying anymore. It's just, it makes men out of kids. It really does. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great sport. I love it. I owe it a lot.
So how did you wind up on The Ultimate Fighter season 5?
Yeah, so that season got announced, and I just did whatever I could because they just added 155 like right then, and I just did whatever I can. Had Couture talk to him, had Kendall Grove talk to him, who was on the show, Rashad Evans, Joe Stevenson, and then I did the interviews and I acted like who I am, but somehow some like way that it kind of fit into their like formula.
The
formula, to have a reality show. And it was a crazy year. We had Diaz on there, like Manny Gambirian, Joe Lazon, Rob Emerson. There was a bunch of tough guys on that team.
Good one.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a good one.
Your first opponent coming into the house, you obviously knew the format when you walked in, and you got picked to fight Wayne Weems.
Right.
Was that, it really wasn't defined in the show, was that the coach picking it or yourself thinking that was the best matchup for you?
I think I went on the show kind of picked to win it.
I agree with that.
And Diaz BJ picked me first, and then Jens picked Diaz. But then, Jens had control almost the whole time to pick the matchups, and then the last guy was just, I was the last guy to compete, and that was in that round, and they kind of gave me Wayne Weems, and is what it is.
Yes, that's I think Wayne probably had the absolute best draw on the show because he took care of him quick. He didn't get beat up too bad, and then he got to party and hang out and drink, for the remainder of the season. Like he never left.
Yeah.
was awesome.
It might be, some guys might consider it better to get the contract, Mike. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Not Wayne. Wayne at this time was doing, like, he did. If you look at his record, like Chris, I, and Miguel were kind of mainstays within the Midwest. There's a lot of fixed fights on Wayne Weems' record, and like I saw him, like I've seen him do fixed fights, and when he showed up on The Ultimate Fighter, I'm like calling around, like, that's the same guy. How did he get there? Yeah. So we kind of knew he was, low hanging fruit from the beginning. He wasn't going to win in that house.
Yeah. But but overall, how is the Ultimate Fighter experience? Now, here you are, it's the big show, but at the same time, you're fighting, I think, for like a salary and maybe getting a bonus at this point if you stop your opponent. I mean, it's not the big time in terms of pay, the big time, and you got couture and guys with real careers, real expectations and stuff. So what's your feeling overall at this point?
I'm not a big TV guy, especially a reality TV show. Like, I wouldn't even watch it. And, I was just doing what I had to do to get in and compete, to get in with all the top dogs. And, I remember being in that hotel and watching a reality TV show and thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm going to be on something like this, and when I got in there, it just really is a recipe to create drama. You can't read books, you can't watch TV, can't talk to people, you can only talk to the guys. It's like a really nice jail. You're going up against all these guys. You can't got to keep your eye on your back and just kind of knowing like what you have to do. You're going to have to beat all these people up.
Gray, I always thought it was funny. Like when I was in there, I was at the season before you, and you could say, man, this toilet's broke, or we're out of this and that. And they'd be like, we'll get to it. But if you say we're out of vodka, you don't get the K out in vodka and they're bringing it in. What, who needs vodka? I mean, it's like, it's a recipe. Like you say, it's like a ticking time bomb, and you put people in there with alcohol. They're just waiting for something to go wrong because it makes good TV.
And it's anything but reality, right? like I get thrown on this TV show, and I love BJ Penn, but he's not. We come from two different backgrounds, right? And he was a little bit more, kind of about the technique, teaching technique and slower practices. I wanted like more.
Hard. Hard.
And that's kind of what Jens did. And, and not that it was wrong or right or bad or good. It was just not the way that I trained for, a competition.
Yeah,
for years.
I think the part of it is that the TV show really kind of forced you down a path as they gave you a coach. You can't, who wants to give up your coach if you're happy? You know what I mean? That's the horrible part of it.
Yeah.
Great. I will even say, like, here in TUF episode 5, it's the Gabe Rudiger, episode or he misses weight. But like, if you look at the totality of everybody else on that show, they didn't give a shit about Gabe Rudiger, what he did or anything. There's a part in the bus where Rudiger's picked to fight Corey Hill, and you're like, oh, so what are you going to do? And he's like, oh, I'm going to keep it on my feet, this, that. And you're like, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about your weight. Like, you kind of saw in your mind where you would be if you were him, and you're at like code red, and he's, I'm going to go take a nap and chill out. But you got to see your character in that because you were dragging him into the sauna. You were putting him on a bike, where everybody else was just like, I don't care. It's like for some reason you stepped up. You're like, no, this is what teammates are supposed to do, even though this is a manufactured situation. I think I took away like from that episode, like what kind of character that you had in the practice room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was so much, trying to be a good teammate or whatever, but look, we got a job to do, and the first part of that job is to make weight. And if you want to throw this away, that's on you. But I'm here to help you, and let's just get it done. I mean, at least lose the battle in the cage, not on the scale.
Yeah.
That's a wrestler right there, Chris. That's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your upbringing
I've been
was
making
made for that,
Yeah, it's crazy. I've been making weights since I was 8 years old, and I missed once, and it's just that's just what we do. We pick this sport. We pick the sport to where you cut weight. Do I like it? No, but we got to do it and get it done.
I mean, Gray, I've always felt like, there's so many variables when it comes to fighting. You can't control your opponent. You can't control the judges. You can't control if the ref makes a bad call. You can't control much, man, but you can always control your weight if you come in there on. That's only if you can't do that part, then you ain't in control of anything, man. You're not controlling yourself. You got to go. You got to make the weight, man. And if you don't make that, then I don't know what to say. I got nothing for you, really. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's just being disciplined, and if you're not disciplined, then it's just being tough, at the end and getting through it and making it.
I felt bad for Gabe. Like he had an infomercial about, and that there was some creative editing in there as well.
Yeah.
Like they really did a number on him. I legitimately, we had him on a couple of weeks ago. He did a great interview, and I legitimately felt pretty bad for him, and kind of watching it now than then. So
he was a decent guy on the show too.
Yeah,
man, but once that camera turned on, it was like, how can I get more? How can I get more? And I'm sitting here like, dude, you can get more by just fighting,
by winning.
By winning.
And he even talked about that. Yeah.
And I tried to tell the guys like that, is it's, it's not about camera time, man. It's about getting in there and showing people who you are and training hard, winning, and doing your job.
He talked a little bit about that, about how he felt like he got caught up in too much of thinking, I got to make a spectacle. I got to do something. I got to get TV time. I got to get talked about because this is a good platform. And he tried to do that. Now, did you kind of realize that going in? Had you seen what was happening to other guys who've been in the Ultimate Fighter and done well? This was a huge platform. That put you like 5 years ahead of what any other guy who was fighting in the UFC before that had to do. So this was a big platform. Did you see it like that?
Not really. I saw it more as an opportunity to get in, to go up against the best guys.
Okay.
And again, I come from a sport to where, especially in my day, it was do your job, winning will take care of it, and people will know you because of that.
So, Chris, you're talking about a guy that's got 4 fights right now. So his second fight is against a 22-year-old Brandon Melendez, who has 30 fights to his record at that time.
Wow.
And Gray wins a real tough fight. It was not an easy fight, and Gray finishes him in the second round by guillotine.
Yeah. Yeah, he was one of those durable guys who have been around the block and but
you're finding your finish.
Yeah. He was crafty.
So from there, he goes and fights somebody, and we're going to go one at a time on these because they're fantastic. The winner goes to the finals, and in your mind, you're probably already there, and you run into another very tough and durable superstar now, Nate Diaz.
Yeah. What happened with that is we were going 2 rounds, right? And I get kind of, I tell people all the time, your confidence comes from your preparation, right? If you prepare right, you can have all those boxes checked off in your mind. Conditioning's there, sparring's there, whatever it is. You can walk into that cage. You're going to have butterflies, but but you're not going to be nervous because your preparation, you're confident. And, just that was the last day of the TV show. And, I really didn't feel as if I put in the time and the work that I needed to. And, that was one of those to where, I had the questions kind of in my mind. Did I do enough? Did I suffer enough? Like, am I ready to go? And then they hit us like, okay, this is going to be 3 rounds now. And then that's
so you didn't know that.
Like, yeah, that started playing in my head like, damn, and went out in round 1 and felt good and came
your
out.
First punch cuts him open.
Yeah. I guess.
The first punch, and then it goes into a takedown. It cut Diaz open, right? Immediately he's bleeding.
Yeah. Yeah. And his guard was pretty easy to deal with. And but where Diaz is really tricky is in those transitions. He's slick with that jits, and we came out, I think, in round 2, and just had a little bit of a scramble, and, he caught me in a guillotine.
It seemed like you hit a cardio wall.
Yeah, maybe more mental. I can usually push through a lot of stuff. I just didn't want to, I knew it was going to be 3 rounds, and maybe I started to pace a little bit more. Okay, let's just be smart. And he just caught me in the guillotine. But I went out of that, feeling as if I'm never gonna let preparation play in my mind ever.
What was it? Yeah, what was it like living with Nate Diaz?
He was actually really cool to me. We would talk. He was on Jen's Paul, and I was on BJ Penn's team, and we had respect for each other. And it was we would talk a little bit, but
was he talking shit to anybody in the house?
Not to me, no. But
he's like a different guy now.
Yeah, but no, he would talk shit. Like I remember the first couple nights, everybody almost got into it, and then everybody started to know we had a backyard fight that we kind of egged on, and everybody kind of knew who the Lions were, and the Lions stayed away. The Lions stayed away from the other Lions, and then we let the other guys, kind of argue and
up the camera time.
Maybe push them to get into a backyard fight. And
I mean, that's prison. That's literally a prison yard. It really.
We were just looking for we were just looking for entertainment, I think.
Oh. So who'd you put in there again? Who's matchmaking? What's going on there in the backyard?
That was against Noah, this guy Noah, and then also Noah's out of Colorado. And
Noah Thomas.
Yeah. And then this guy was kind of weird, but I think his name was Marvin. Marvin or
Marlon Sims.
Marlon Sims, yeah.
Gotcha.
And they were kind of going at each other, and we kept egging it on. And I
remember the one guy got an arm bar.
Yeah.
He picked him up and slammed his hand like concrete. It's like, don't do an arm bar in a street fight, brother.
Right.
I remember that was awesome. I think Danny came and yelled at you guys afterwards for egging the fight on.
Yeah, he did a high kick right off the bat, I think, too, which was different in a street fight.
Yeah, you don't see much of those.
Wow.
Yeah.
So those fights that we just talked about technically don't count on Gray's record. So he makes his UFC debut at the Tough Fight finale against an 8-6 Rob Emerson, and technically speaking, you're 2-0. And Gray, it's one of the most bizarre endings to a fight, possibly in UFC history. Would you mind walking us through it?
Yeah, Rob Emerson, he was actually he was like, we were pretty close on the TV show, and he was
it intentional?
What?
Was it intentional that they put you guys together?
They probably did that, but he was a really talented, he was an athlete. He went up against a lot of good guys. He had some losses, but his record didn't really show like how good he was. And I took that seriously and trained hard for it. And I remember the last week, Joe Stevenson, he came in to help me out, to do the weight cutting and to do the last little kind of preparation. And he had me picking up this heavy bag and slamming it like over and over. Okay. Boom, boom. And I remember in the fight having him up against a cage and picking him up, because usually in wrestling, like, we don't slam people, we take them down. It might be kind of hard, but I picked him up and I was like, oh, this is exactly what we drilled. And I slammed him, not taking into account that it's not a heavy bag, a round, girthy, heavy bag. It's a human being. And, I just slammed him as hard as I could. And, that canvas hurts. So I hit my forehead, and, I was definitely not out, but I was rocked. I was like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to be rocked.
I think the birds were flying around.
Yeah, I remember trying to get up, and my body just wasn't doing anything. I was just like, oh my God. Wow. So that's half my paycheck, right? So I was kind of pissed.
Just to kind of frame it properly.
Yeah.
Great slams Rob Emerson, and Emerson bellows in pain when he hits the mat, and he's like, ah! And the referee stops it, except Gray hit his head so hard that he kind of flops over, and it's ruled a no contest because they're saying Gray knocked himself out, while Rob Emerson, audibly tapped.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Joe Rogan's interviewing Gray, and it's not a good thing when somebody's been concussed to interview him. And Rogan, has done that on several occasions. And he knows that he admits he shouldn't.
He doesn't like to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes he gets caught up in it. And this is one of the examples. Like Tiki Goshen's another one. He probably shouldn't have interviewed you based on the fact that, I mean, you got cracked. You got cracked hard on that canvas.
Here's the thing. I knew exactly what I was saying. I was lying through my teeth, because
you had to. It's half your money.
I had to. I'm that's half my money. And, I'm just like, and it's not a win, which I want.
It's not a win. You're looking at it like an attorney. Like, if you're an attorney, your client may have killed 50 people, but he's innocent. And I'm going to tell you why. I mean, that's the game. Like, if you really look at it.
They were asking for self-defense.
That's your only play, is to go, no, I won. I want my hand raised. Give me my money. Fight of the night. Finish bonus.
Yeah, I remember, I was like, no, I was just tired. I was just tired. I was trying to get up. Whatever. Nobody's lying through my teeth. I hate losing. I hate draws. I hate all that.
Well, let's look at your corner. You had Joe Stevenson, and you also had Corey Hill in your corner.
Corey Hill.
I thought I saw Corey Hill in your corner. Was it Jay Huron? Okay,
yeah.
My fault.
Jay Huron.
And
he was always in my corner. He was.
I got to. It's true. He is.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that was one of the best guys in the room that I ever worked with. He is just he was always, but his career just never panned out. You know, the choices he made, like career wise, you know, you could just never see him get that credit, you know, that he deserved.
People were afraid to fight Jay Herrion though.
Oh,
Jay
yeah.
Herrion, is it true that he would run guys out of the gym at Extreme Couture?
Oh, he was a beast in the gym. A beast. Yeah, he was you know, he's probably one of the best guys I ever worked with in the gym.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how soon after this fight were you back in the gym? Because you may have been concussed.
Oh, I grabbed my coach and we hit mitts in the back room for about an hour. I was so pissed. Yeah.
I think you habitually overtrain.
Ron Frazier, I remember, you know, like getting up to that room, I was like just screaming or whatever. I was like, get up. I gotta hit mitts. I gotta fucking get a workout in.
Wow.
So Gray's got all this pedigree. He's got all this hype. On the independent grind, no one will fight him. You finally get, you do the reality show. You get the infomercial in regards to who you are. There's your UFC debut, and it doesn't work out the way you wanted to. So your next fight, September 19, 2007, you have to make a statement. Like if you're Gray Maynard and like you're that alpha guy, this is it. Like this is your debut all over again. And you fight Joe Veres.
Yeah. I got one quick question though. You come out of the reality show. You're not the reality show champion. You didn't win the contract that they gave away. Like, what do you fight? What'd you get paid for Emerson? Like, if you don't mind.
Probably like 8 and 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still good. Wow.
So 8.
Okay. Yeah.
They wouldn't cut it in half. They wouldn't cut your win bonus in half. Split it between you guys.
No. That's not how it works, Mike.
Yeah. No.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So
a draw is a savings of money for the promoter.
You're gonna get exactly what that contract says. They're not gonna give you extra, man. I mean, they're just gonna. This is what it says.
Yeah.
So September 19th,
they did give us our win bonuses when me and Edgar fought to a draw.
Because that was a
championship fight.
That was a pretty damn good fight.
You know how much money you know how much money they've made off just that fight, probably.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So September 19th, 2007, you've got UFC Fight Night. You fight Joe Veres. What's your mindset going into that fight?
Yeah, just make a statement. Of course I want to make a statement, but just have my hands ready. Just have, again, it's the constant process of me just getting better at MMA, right? I was dealing with like a couple tools and then just adding a couple more tools, getting my hands better, and that's what you get confident from is your preparation. And I was working on my hands. I was, I just had time to kind of hone my skills a little bit more.
Quick question here. At this point, have you already had your nickname? And if so, who gave that to you? And is it just basically your wrestling style, just bullying people around, or how'd that all come to me?
Yeah, so in college, I rescued a bull terrier, and he was kind of mean. We used to play this like soccer game preseason, and he would play with us, and he would just take people out because he only went for the ball. Like that's all he would concentrate on, and in the wrestling room, it was hard. It was hard for me to get guys to train with me because that's what I did. I trained hard and I kind of had a brutal style to where it was never a fun practice, to go with me. And, that was kind of the joke. You guys are bullies, because he was a bull terrier and they kind of made us you know, they were kind of like, yeah, you guys are bullies. So it kind of stuck.
Okay.
And, you know, I like, as far as when I get out of the room, you know, I'm probably one of the nicest guys, you know, I feel like I am, but, once it's time to train and to do your job, like, let's go. Like, you know, I'm going to bully you. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to achieve my goals.
So with Joe Barry's, man, Gray comes in like a freight train, knocks him out in 9 seconds. It's the second fastest KO in the 155-pound division, which is arguably one of the most stacked. 155, 170 are the two probably most difficult divisions to compete in. And, you know, you made a statement, like you made that statement.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to.
Was that your, hey, Joe Riggs was in Barry's corner, and so was Drew Fickett.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of weird because it happened 9 seconds, and, you know, like, I'm just never happy with any performance. It's like, fuck, I wanted to get in there and work more, you know, I wanted to do more because, you know, I had like all these skills I was working on, and you know, I kind of left a little pissed, like, man, I could have worked more.
That's funny.
So the UFC does him a huge solid, Chris. They send him the German national kickboxing champion and Dennis Siver in January 23rd, 2008. I've noticed with the UFC, one of the recurring themes with you is they give you a lot of time off in between bouts.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
You know, I never hounded them about getting in and, you know, trying to compete. Like, I just waited for, you know, Joe to hit me up and, you know, tell me who I'm going up against, just because that gave me more time to train.
Were you dealing with Joe Silva directly at that point?
Yeah. Pretty much all the time.
So you didn't have any manager really other than Couture from the beginning?
Yeah. It was all me.
Huh. That's interesting.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, usually when you get out of the Ultimate Fighter, you're on that contract no matter what. A manager wouldn't help.
Yeah.
You know, they can help with sponsorship, but you're on their deal. It doesn't matter what manager's not going to help.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So against Dennis Siver, you dominated the first round. And in the second round, it seemed like you kind of hit a wall. I mentioned it earlier in the interview. Do you think you may have overtrained for this fight?
Yeah. Yeah, I ended up getting I had a flu like that last, you know, 2-3 days, and you know, that's usually what happens when you overtrain. And you know, I got a flu and just pushed through it. It was a good push. You know, again, I remember being pissed after that fight because I did get tired and went home kind of on the couch for about 2-3 days, you know, throwing up still. And then, you know, just being pissed at myself, like, for that, and hitting up Joe Silva because a person hit me up, like, they're looking for an opponent for Edgar. And I remember being on the couch still, you know, and hit up Joe Silva, like, I'll take that fight. Because it was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, it was in April. So April 2nd, 2008, UFC Fight Night. And are you fighting full-time at this point?
Yeah.
Because you're making enough money to do it, but the time off in between, man, it's kind of hard to make ends meet. Like, I could see you might be redlining every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. All the time. I mean, that's all you do, like, when you're getting going.
Yeah. So Frankie Edgar, you're 5-0-1, and Frankie Edgar's 8-0, and I think the wrestling and size was the deciding factor. You win all 3 rounds. Were you surprised at how easy that fight was for you?
Not surprised. I remember I broke my hand in round 1. You know, and so I had to pull through that. But you know, I just knew he was a goer, and got my cardio prepared, and just you know, had a chance to showcase like what I've been working on.
Yeah, it's
you know, and
it was
about
a dominant
that time,
performance.
like I was asking for Sean Shirk, you know, a lot. I was hitting up Joe Silva, hey, give me Sean Shirk, because that's what I wanted. I wanted the best, and you know, I wanted to go up against, you know, all the top guys.
Yeah,
you know, and when I heard that they couldn't get an opponent for Edgar, you know, I jumped on that.
Yeah, didn't hesitate. Okay, so you beat Rich Clemente, and then March 7th, 2009, UFC 96, they put you up against an incredibly durable Jim Miller, who at the time is 13-1, and his lone loss is against Frankie Edgar on the independent grind.
Yeah. I mean, Clemente was he was one of those guys who he was underrated, you know, and just going through that fight, you know, how tricky he was, you know, like I thought I would do better, but you get in there and it's like, this guy's pretty good. So after that one, you know, I wanted to get in against a good guy, and Jim Miller, you know, he was a good name at the time, and you know, I never really was worried about that, you know.
I think your game plan may have threw him off as well.
Yeah, maybe it did. You know, I thought he was going to try to take me down more. I had just started working with a new boxing coach, you know, so like I was working with a new boxing coach with Edgar, and
it's about Gil Martinez.
Yeah, Gil Martinez. You know, and we started to click, and you know, like I didn't really feel like anybody could, you know, take me down if I chose that, and you know, that's where I needed to get better, was my striking and my boxing, and you know, I got a good coach, and it showed, I thought.
Yeah, so Gray kept it on his feet the entire time, and I think Jim Miller was perplexed. He's like, you know, I got this friggin' stud wrestler, and we haven't had 10 seconds on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, you went out of your way to thank Gil Martinez at the end, the Extreme Couture boxing coach at that time. And yeah, no, it kind of, you saw your game changing, like you were leveling up at an already high level. And you know, you were kind of coming into almost like a championship stretch, so to say, in terms of how an athlete performs.
Yeah.
So you had your 9-second knockout against Joe Veres, and you were like a little disappointed you didn't get the work in. Now you've had a couple of decisions in a row. You're winning, but you're probably beating yourself up over not finishing. Am I right? Am I getting your mindset?
Yeah, like I never really beat myself up over like a decision, because you know, I always felt like that's you know, a stamp of like, look, I beat him all 3 rounds. Like, you know, I controlled him the whole time.
Decisively.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you really look at him too, he's 13-1 with his lone loss against Edgar, like in a show in Massachusetts. Like, they were priming him. If he beats you, he's probably getting a title fight. You beat him, well, you solidified yourself. It almost had like 2 different outcomes for each of you guys, even though like that fight, I mean, that's main event quality in today's UFC standards.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a tough cat, man.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I was prepared.
And, you know, they're not really doing you any favors, because Roger Huerta is 20 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. He takes a year off after losing to Kenny Florian, and his first fight back is at September 16, 2009 against yourself. And Roger Huerta at that time, I mean, he kind of had that Conor McGregor type hype behind him after making the cover of Sports Illustrated. And man, that was not an easy fight.
Yeah, they were a little pissed at him. That's kind of why they gave him to me. And he kind of talked a little bad about you know, the pay and, you know, all that stuff. And I remember Joe calling me up and he's like, you know, I want you to break his arm. And I was like, all right, well, I'll do my best, I guess.
Do I get extra for that?
Yeah. You know, so that's how that was. They were pissed at him, and they definitely wanted me to beat him, and you know, I did. But again, he's one of those durable guys that, you know, it's hard to put him out.
No.
You know?
Well, his pressure and combinations, I think, won the first round. The second round, you had Gil Martinez. He made you kind of adjust your footwork. And it really, like, you listen to Gil, like, you can tell the bond between you two was just, you guys were on the same page. And it was a close round, but I thought you won the second round. And the third round, did you hit him with a Kimura that looked like you took his arm completely out of its socket?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it popping, and I told the ref, I was like, his arm's popping. But, you know, again, he's one of those durable kids that you know, he doesn't go out easy. And, you know, he scrambled out of it, and yeah, it was a tough fight.
Yeah. It was interesting, especially like when they're announcing the judges and you hear like Cecil Peoples is one of the names.
Yeah.
To me, that's got to be frightening. Like, to me, that's got to be one of the scariest parts of your fight.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was a split decision, and I don't really understand how that was a split.
Cecil Peoples, that's what I had to say.
Cecil scored it. I mean, you're making the argument against yourself because Cecil scored a 30-27 for Gray. And it's just like, if I were to make an argument, maybe you lost the fight just based on his scorecard, not even watching the fight.
Yeah.
And they put you in against your very next fight. They put you up against main event, UFC Fight Night, where you fight Nate Diaz. Now, he's really your only loss, even though it's not on your record from The Ultimate Fighter. Was that in your head at all going into this fight?
It was in my head to motivate me to get up and run in the mornings, to, you know, that was just, I was hungry. You know, I asked for Kenny Florian, I think, and he said, no, we're going to do Diaz. And this is kind of when me and Edgar were up for, you know, a title fight, and you never look good against, you know, Diaz. I mean, it's hard to look good against him, but you know, it just motivated. It was just, you know, more of an opportunity to get back a loss and to come in prepared and you know, come in with cardio. You know, I kind of got a little, you know, kind of got a little emotional, like in there, just wanting to beat him, wanting to kind of take his head off and you know, just get that loss back. And you know, I don't think I was, you know, calm, cool, and collected. It was more.
Well, you guys were talking, you know, a lot of
aggressive
shit to each other. You guys were talking a lot of shit to each other.
Yeah.
In the ring or after?
In the ring.
In the ring, because you know, he talks shit, so I was talking it back. You know.
So did that start at weigh-ins, or was it just once the fight started?
Nope, just once the fight started.
That's interesting. I figured it would have been at weigh-ins.
Yeah. No, he no, just in the cage, I think.
Yeah.
Do you remember what any of it was like you had like a bitch or you had that terrible takedown? What was it saying? Do you remember anything or not really?
Yeah, not really. Just come on, bitch. You know, that type of shit.
Were you worried about getting a slap? Because something when he's disrespecting someone in a fight, he slaps him. And did you?
The Stockton slap.
No, I think he was you know, he knew that I was, you know, in there for blood as well, you know. So
and here's the thing, let's talk about just the elephant in the room. You got a wrestler here that stood and traded with Nate for the first 2 rounds. It was 100% stand up, and Gray Maynard won those rounds 1 and 2. Yeah, I mean, you dropped him with a knee in the 2nd round, and then like in the 3rd round, I'd say Nate won most of the 3rd round, but towards the end, you're connecting and coming on strong again. So like that, one of Diaz's biggest, the Diaz brothers, their biggest weapon is their cardio, and you're beating him with his own secret move. Yeah,
no, I came in prepared, you know, and then at the end, I'm pretty sure I clipped him pretty good to where he tried to take me down.
That
was towards the end. Yeah.
So here's the thing at this part in Gray's career. So April 10th, 2010, BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar fight for the title. Was that bout ever offered to you?
No. They told me that because Edgar went up against a guy named Matt Veach. Yeah, you know, and kind of ran through him. And then I went up against, you know, Diaz. Yeah. So, you know, that kind of baffled me. You know, I beat Edgar, and then, you know, he jumps the line to get the title shot, you know, going up against a guy that he was in the UFC for maybe 4 fights, 5 fights, you know.
Now, you were also calling out BJ Penn. Do you think sometimes the UFC will put you up against your friends, like, you know, we've addressed in several of these podcasts, in order just to kind of create a little conflict or knock you off your square? Do you think they had that idea with you and BJ, being that they knew you came in like first training with BJ for a fight?
You know, it's really hard to tell like what they're thinking and how they're doing things, because you know, again, like I really thought that was my title shot. You know, I just beat Diaz. You know, I beat Edgar, you know, and they gave it to him.
That's crazy.
Is that like the first time that you started, or were you worried before about how they were going to handle you? Because
I wasn't really worried, just because I was like 7-0, 8-0, you know, and you know, it was just keep plugging away, keep winning, you know, and they can't deny me.
So Frankie beats BJ twice, and you know, with yourself, you could have just stayed idle and probably gotten a title fight. But instead, August 28th, 2010, UFC 118, you fight Kenny Florian in Boston, like in his hometown, as the main event.
I loved it. Yeah.
Does that motivate you? Is that something that pumps you up, like to go to Boston? There?
Oh, of course.
It's good to be
I
booed.
love doing that type of stuff.
Nice.
So like I was asking for Florian a long time ago, just because, you know, I didn't really respect him as a fighter, you know, and you know, I just wanted to go up against him. He had a big name.
Was it his mouth or was it his technique? Because it could be either. You know, I guess it could be either. Huh?
He seemed kind of cocky. He just seemed a little cocky and a little arrogant. You know, he might be a good guy. I don't know him too well, but
Sam Stout told us he wasn't in his interview.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, but I love Stout. He's probably one of the best guys, ever. I know that guy.
Yeah, he's good people.
He's my brother. But
I
your
think in
styles
this
match up
instance,
really good though.
I think in this instance too, Chris, what you really got to look at is like the intangibles. Kenny Florian, stud jiu-jitsu player. I don't think anybody doubts his credentials, but he's never finished anybody off of his back.
He's not going to get great. You know what I mean? It's a bad style for
Kenny.
Florian, I think. Yeah, I mean,
In his
perfect style for
hometown.
you. Yeah. I'd have probably said, do we got anybody else?
Yeah.
If it were me, I'm just saying.
We were talking about some of the intangibles about how Florian had never submitted anybody off of his back in MMA, even though he's got high-end jiu-jitsu, and he's got a stud wrestler that's going to be just hovering over him probably for 3 rounds.
Yeah. And I was working on a lot on striking, of course, but just more on control too, control on top. And it was just really one of those fights to where it was kind of easy, and I didn't really have to take a lot of chances just because there was a title fight coming up. I just wanted to go in there and control him and just kind of make him understand that he had no chance.
All right. So the one thing that stands out in this fight is, Gray, you had like a pair of boxing trunks on, and all of your sponsors that were on your trunks were flying off. Like they weren't adhering well. There's several times in the fight I thought maybe you lost your mouthpiece, and it's Yamasaki just picking up your sponsor tags.
Yeah, those were the days, man, when you would try to get sponsors. Your manager would try to get sponsors until the very last day, and we were scrambling to get it all put on, and
it's like you used double-sided tape. It was like you used double-sided tape.
Just whatever we had to do. The checks cleared though, which is good.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. Florian trained with Faraz Zahabi for this bout, which is generally the kiss of death for wanting a finish, I might add.
Yeah.
Soon after that, they parlayed you into the main event at UFC 125 against Frankie Edgar, which is it in the UFC Hall of Fame? That fight?
Yeah, probably not, just because it's me.
I don't know how that isn't. Like, if you're looking at like a UFC short list for fights that need to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, your bout with Frankie Edgar at 125. It ended in a draw, and it was right after he fought BJ Penn twice. Why don't you walk us through that first round?
First round. So I changed up a lot that camp. I actually hired on a good strength and conditioning coach. He was actually with the Jacksonville Jaguars at the time. He worked with me in college. He was a coach at Athletes Performance, and then he went to the Broncos when they won the Super Bowl. Just a really smart guy, and he was working with Brock Lesnar. But he called me up. He's like, "Dude, let's work together again." And I was like, "All right, cool," because I felt like I was kind of hitting a plateau in my training, and I was really overtrained a lot, walking into a lot of fights, just kind of not lethargic, but just pushing through, and I just didn't feel like I was getting the most out of how much I was training. And he came in and he looked at my schedule from my past camps, and he was like, "What are you guys doing? Are you guys idiots? Like, that amount of work is stupid. Like, the human anatomy can't can't do that.
Sustain,
You
yeah.
know?
Great.
Yeah.
You have, like, I always have the mentality. One of my buddies used to fight with me, Alex Taylor. He went to one thing called Orange Theory, and I've never been there, but they say, like, it keeps you right in the right spot the whole time. And he got done. He was like, I don't feel like I did anything. It's like when we'd go to the gym and train, if you don't leave 100% exhausted, like you don't have anything left, you didn't work hard. Is that how you usually do things? Just go as hard as you can every time?
Yeah, I mean, I was going max heart rate every day, 2 times a day, and you know, and at the time, you know, this was 2010-ish. You know, like boxing coaches and jiu-jitsu coaches aren't really good with human anatomy and probably don't have the degrees in, like, you know, physical science and just you know, we were still training like, you know, Neanderthals.
We're like Rocky IV, you know, we're trying to do this. I mean, so what you're saying is that's not good, because I never quit doing that stuff.
Yeah. No, he just tried to organize my camp, right, to where there was a little bit of peaks and valleys and just tried to make it to where
you had rest.
You know, what?
You had rest.
Yeah, rest. And
every once in a
while. You peak at the right time.
Yeah, and get the most out of it, you know, like all your training and coming in feeling good and pulling back a little bit in order to get ready to do that next push and more of block training, you know. And so getting through that camp, it was really stressful because a lot of the coaches who I worked with weren't buying into it, and they were stressing me out. Like, this guy doesn't know about fighting. He's a football, you know, strength and conditioning coach. And he was basically doing a lot of the stuff that the UFC PI is doing now. Right. And
was he right?
What?
Would you say he was right in his handling?
He was completely right. But when you have people in your ear, you know, it's stressful, man. You have to make all these people work, and you know, we all have a common goal. And when a person, when we have a routine, they were getting a little pissed off because we were changing up that routine and we were bringing in the new guy that, because I love training and I love learning about training and I love, you know, doing that. Like, I've always done that. And I just kind of felt as if I got to a point to where, you know, I was plateauing, and it probably wasn't the smartest idea to change up for a title fight, because it was really stressful and there was a lot of sleepless nights of like, am I doing enough? You know, coaches in my ear. But at the end of the day, I was ready to go that night. But, you know, and he had me feeling like great, to where it was like, how do I feel like this good on fight day? Because every other fight day, it's like, all right, come on, wake up, legs, wake up, you know. You're kind of drained. You're happy to have the camp done with, and you know, it was a different feeling. And you know, I came out and I was quick, I was poppy, you know, and I caught him on a left hook, and you know, and what happened was, you know, that adrenaline dump that, you know, got the title fight. I got the belt, and I mean, just throwing all those power punches. If I didn't work with him that camp, I would have been completely gassed out. But I recovered so quick, you know, that I could come out in round 2. Like any other time, like I probably would have been dead the whole fight.
Well, here, let's
round 1.
Round 1, did you trap Frankie 3 times or 4 times?
Maybe like 3, definitely 3.
3.5,
4.
maybe.
Yeah,
we'll go half.
Mike, do you have, what does that go down in the books? Was that a 10-7?
No. It could, you know what? It was a 10-8. I looked at the scorecards. I've got everything.
It
It's
should have been
10-8 across the
10-7.
board. And Chris, any other referee would have stopped that fight.
Oh, I remember watching it. Yeah.
You know, Yves Lavine, who was the referee, and Mario Yamasaki are the only two people that wouldn't have stopped that fight. Every other referee on the UFC roster would have stepped in and said, "That's it. This is slaughter rule. Like it's, you know, it's 10-0 in the first inning. The kids go home. This little league game is over."
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah, and you know, hindsight, you know, there really is no 10-7 round if that's
Could have been.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Could have
And
been 10-6.
Why do they even have a 10-point must if you don't ever give out a 10-7? If you look at the Pacquiao against Juan Manuel Marquez a long time ago, where like Pacquiao dropped him 3 times in round 1, and then like Marquez had to come all the way back. It was like a 10-6 round.
Yeah.
Every time he dropped him, and he had to come all the way back to get that draw.
Now, I know that's one thing they've talked about in MMA. They talk about more the criteria of what constitutes a 10-6, one constitutes a 10-7, and 10-8. I mean, because they're not doing it right. And it's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, you get these judges and they're not really, I mean, it's a rarity that this would ever happen. So they don't understand it. But if you get knocked down more than once, it can't be a 10-8, you know what I mean? Unless the other guy wins a round, you know?
I think what the general point is, and I don't agree with it, and you know, it sounds like you don't, but if you do lose a 10-6 round in MMA with 3 or 5 round fights, you can't even make it up.
Yeah. It's almost should be almost like half point system. It should almost be done to a half point. But to Frankie Edgar's corner's credit, he gets back to the corner at one of the ugliest rounds where they should honestly be thinking about throwing a towel in. But rather than that, they calm Frankie down and they say to him, he's gassed. There's no way he's not gassed. Do you remember what your corner was telling you at that time?
No, I remember just having pins and needles all over my body. That was, it was just the adrenaline dump, you know, how much effort, you know, I put out. It was definitely one of those, the most tired I've ever been. But when I went out in round 2, you know, in the back of my mind, you know, I was going to coast a little bit, but what happened was like, wow, you know, I'm recovering pretty quick. You know, he still won round 2, but
he appointed you. He appointed you.
Yeah, he appointed me.
Now in round 1,
in
round 1, at some point, obviously you were hitting him and he was shooting in on you.
He wasn't shooting in on him.
Well, you know, I mean,
he was doing somersaults backwards.
Well, he did some of those too, but no, there were a couple of times. I'm just asking, did you feel it? Like, how close were you? Do you think? Because, like, was he feeling weak?
I thought it was done, you know, but he was doing a great job of like maybe, you know, holding on to a leg and kind of recovering a little bit, but then he would stand up and I would knock him down again. I mean, you know, it just, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what's going on here? I thought this is done.
It had to be frustrating.
This is done. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Was your corner yelling at the referee to stop the fight?
You know what? I don't know.
Shit, they should have been.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So in between rounds 2 and 3, you got Randy and Gil Martinez literally in Gray's face. Forget the power. Just pace yourself. Just volume. And you know, I mean, you didn't really listen too much to that. You did a little bit, not fully. Yeah. But you know, you out-positioned him. I thought you won the 3rd round. I thought you won, and you know, I think Frankie Edgar's corner also thought that he had won. And when I looked at the scorecards, 2 judges gave that round to Frankie Edgar, 1 gave it to yourself. And then coming into the fourth round, Frankie Edgar like outpointed you on all three judges' cards. And in the fifth round, two judges gave it to yourself, and one him. And like the one judge, like if he would have scored, like the lone judge that scored the round to Frankie Edgar, had he scored that fifth round, like with everybody else, it still would have been a draw.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, I looked great. I looked over these cards after watching the fight, just thinking every single possible way how to get your hand raised. And even like the one round that we could like justifiably swing just to kind of coincide with the other two judges, it would have made his card a 47-47. Like he still would have got a draw.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was, you know, hats off to him. He you know, he's a tough competitor, and I love going up against him.
Wow. Let's talk about like what kind of a competitor he is. You guys were both disappointed in listening. I mean, it's a shocking outcome. Like it's something that like it's scripted for like a movie, and it doesn't really happen in real life. And you're on the receiving end of it. And you're just like, well, what happens?
Yeah.
They give Frankie the belt. Frankie takes the belt, throws it behind him on the ground, doesn't even hand it to his corner, going, I didn't deserve this. Like you had two guys that would never, ever in their lives ever accept a participation trophy. And, you know, I think if the roles had been reversed and you were the champion at that time, you probably would have done the same thing.
Oh, I would have been pissed as well. Yeah.
He would have threw the belt down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get it next time.
You know, because it wasn't a win. You know, it wasn't a win, and he kept the belt, and you know that's how he is. He's a warrior. He's a competitor, and
that's how you are.
That's why I like going up against him.
Yeah, that's how you are. Yeah. All right. So May 28th, your rematch got canceled because both of you two got injured.
Yeah. Okay. That's the question. Yeah, they told me he had to pull out. They wanted to offer me Showtime, Anthony Pettis, non-title. And I was going through a couple injuries in that camp. It was a rough camp. I had just gotten cut close, about halfway through. It was a pretty big cut. Couldn't really spar. Elbow was bothering me. You know, just a lot of stuff not really, you know, going smoothly. And, you know, I just opted out and got surgery on my elbow and just kind of healed up.
Okay. So the trilogy between you and Frankie Edgar takes place at UFC 136, October 8th, 2011. How was your camp going into that fight?
Yeah, the camp was you know, a little chaotic. You know, I ended up leaving Extreme Couture halfway through the camp.
Wow.
Rented out a gym, you know, on my own, brought in a couple partners, and you know, me and my boxing coach, we kind of had a falling out. He was still in my corner, but you know, we kind of knew like where it was going. And you know, I just left the gym. I just was like,
well, like,
I don't want to deal with
here. It's real easy in situations like that to point fingers at other people.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself. Like, what was your reasoning based on yourself?
My reasoning. You know,
I mean, that's a kind of key on them, just like where you're at.
Well, you also seem like a career, lifelong competitor. You're really smart about your training. Now here's a rematch that's really important. I think you know it's not a great time to change camps, but you did it anyway. What was it? Had to be something powerful.
Yeah, you know, I'm the type of guy where you know, you can't adjust the wins, but you can adjust your sails. So, you know, that was going on, and like I don't care. Like I kind of feed off of you know, difficulties my whole life. Like that kind of drives me. And, you know, I felt like I'm not going to tell him to leave the gym, or, you know, I'm not going to go to the gym and, you know, get in like arguments and stuff or whatever it is. You know, I'm just going to leave. You know, I'll figure it out. And, you know, I tried to, and you know, and again, I was prepared, and he, you know, he did clip me. Maybe like halfway through the camp, I ended up throwing out my back. You know, me and my boxing coach, he had me sparring a bunch, and I really wasn't prepared to go that many rounds in practice, like sparring. I ended up throwing out my back. I was on the bed for about a week and a half, and then I had to get a nerve block, you know, put in my back. And after that, you know, I just left. I was just like, I'll figure this out. And there was a small gym up close to my house, and I just went there around the times that, you know, people like weren't there, and I would bring in a couple guys and just try to train on my own.
What kind of money were they giving you for, you know, your main event status?
So walking into the draw, the Frankie Edgar draw, I was on a 26 and 26 contract. Yeah. And so walking to that, what?
They don't, so you don't even get all that because it was a draw. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, walking to the cage, like I probably spent about 26 grand on my camp, just the coaching, the whatever I had to do, you know. So walking to the cage, I'm stressing a little bit, like, man, if I lose this fight, like I'm gonna pay to be in here, you know.
Yeah, there goes my Netflix account.
Yeah. You know, so you know, I was a little pissed off about that, but you know, again, you get the backroom bonuses. They gave me my win bonus as well, and Edgar the win bonus on the draw. I had one fight left on my contract after that, and you know, we think we're in the driver's seat. You know, we gave them a great fight, you know, a title fight. We're going for another title fight. My manager,
great story. It's a great story.
Yeah, my manager calls up Joe Silva, or Joe Silva calls up him. He's like, hey, let's re-up his contract because he only has one left. And we're thinking, like, my buddy Ryan Bader's on like a 60 and 60 contractors, something, you know, close to that. And, you know, we throw out a number, and he's like, nope, 42 and 42. That's it. And then where was I going to go though?
Yeah.
You know, I had a title fight. They knew that, you know, that they were buying out all the promotions. You know, the only guy, you know, the only people who were around were maybe Bellator, you know.
You could have, you know, maybe did a run with King of the Cage.
Oh,
yeah.
Come on, Mike. That's a joke. So you did win, at least. I mean, you won the fight of the night, I'm sure, for your last one you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were paying pretty good. So at least you get bonus that way, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely helped. You know, I got a big backroom bone. Well, I mean, big for me, you know, it was 100 grand. And it was
phenomenal.
Yeah. You know,
still
but
underpaid.
If you look at it,
still underpaid.
Oh yeah, of course. You look at the numbers and you look at all that stuff. But here's the thing is when you're training for a title fight, a main event pay-per-view title fight, and you're only guaranteed 26 grand, you know how stressful that is? You know how annoyingly stressful that is? Like
nuts.
Yeah.
Dude, your wife must have been looking at you going, you know, you could sell cars and make this and like, 3 months and not have the issues that you're taking on.
If you're the best mortgage guy in a town, you're making, probably $1 million.
Yeah.
So great. When they had the Reebok deal, how did that affect you sponsorship wise? Did you lose a ton of money as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That happened when I was on my way down. So it didn't really hurt me because I wasn't really main event, at that time. So it wasn't a huge deal. But, after I lost that title, then that's when I moved up to AKA.
Right.
Dana called me up and he wanted me to move up to AKA. I don't know if that was because he was trying to help me or he was pissed at Randy Couture, because him and Couture were going through a lot, at that time.
Oh, yeah.
So was he banned? That's actually one of my questions. Were you affected by the Randy Couture ban? Like, did they not allow him to corner you?
No, oh, no, that was after, because I left the gym. He wasn't in my corner for that last title fight.
Yeah.
He was still my buddy and I loved him, but it was just, and then Gil ended up like leaving the gym anyways after that, so it was kind of, it was just weird, man. Just, and this happens a lot in MMA is coaches start getting big heads, athletes start getting big heads, and everybody starts butting heads and then you got Edgar, who, he had a great team. Like Mark Henry is, he's a great coach and
he's a good delegator. He delegates really well.
There's something to be said about, these super gyms, Extreme Couture, and you got, American Top Team, and just Sanford, you got all these guys. When there's so many good, talented guys, I can see there's got to be a lot of ego problems and whatnot. But you got some of these smaller gyms, like Frankie's, like when he has a camp, I'm sure the whole gym's about him and his camp. It's not like these at some of these big camps. There's 8 guys with big fights coming up, so it's not all about them. So there's a lot of ego. I think I've never been involved with a big gym, but it seems to me like there would be a lot more egos and a lot more problems there than when you got a smaller gym where it's all about you, baby. I mean, we're setting this up for you. Our whole camp's about you, and if you're not in that, it'd be difficult, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, we were really a tight knit group. Jay Huron, Powell, and we all worked together. But the problem was there wasn't just one coach there. There was, you had a bunch of coaches, and everybody was kind of jockeying to be the, the head coach guy. And
there's only one head coach.
Then I was bringing in all these different guys who had a lot of knowledge. Like that camp, I brought in like an Iron Man guy, like to help with my low base cardio and I was riding a lot of bikes and doing conditioning like that way. I mean, I'm just interested in all that and getting these new coaches, getting these new looks, and like I assumed that my coaches were into it as well, and a couple of them were. They were that it was interesting to them. Like, all right, cool.
The thing about Randy, am I wrong on time frame here? But the thing about Randy is maybe a younger Randy would have probably been right there with you too, because he was a workhorse and stuff. But right around there, it's now he's in Hollywood and stuff like that. Is that really what happened? Is that the long and short of it?
Yeah. He wasn't really on top of it gym wise about that time. He was, and everybody was kind of jockeying to be the head coach or to be the head guy there because, you got your face out there a lot and you got to work with a lot of good athletes and there was just a big struggle going on, within the gym. Still, everybody was, great guys, and we were a tight knit team, but it was just,
I mean,
is what it is, man.
Hey,
in Randy's defense, somebody's got to do the Scorpion King 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
No, hey, that's the thing is Randy too. When Randy leaves a guy like that with even in just MMA, right? Not to mention wrestling, but that's big shoes to fill. Everybody thinks they can do it, but not everybody's gonna be able to.
Yeah,
Miguel, I think
he definitely had his hands full with a lot of stuff going on.
I think the time frame at this time also has him and Kim Couture dating Sugar Free.
Yeah.
So I mean,
they
we're
were
saying a
actually
lot here.
splitting up about that time, I think.
Yeah.
They were splitting up about that time. He had a lot of stuff going on, and it was tough to have a title fight.
Yeah, we're saying we're not saying.
And I just bowed out. That's how I am. Like I'm not gonna go to Randy, because he's my boy. Love the guy. I'm not gonna go to him and say, oh, get this guy out of here. Get this guy out of here. I'll just bow out. I'll just, I'll figure it out. And that's how I felt I could, do it.
Yeah. Everything was a mess at that time. Randy and his relationship, the gym, because he's getting pulled doing movies. It's unfortunate, but sometimes life outside of the gym can affect all of the inner workings and moving parts inside the gym. And kind of that's where it was.
And that's a good point of coming up under him. I knew how much stuff he had to deal with, like every fight, whether it was a divorce or whether it was whatever it was. I felt like I could do that too. If Randy can do that, I can do that. I can just leave this gym if I have to and still win this title fight. That was my mentality.
Wow.
And like hindsight, I would have gone back. I would have pulled out, just because of the back injury, just because of, not training, halfway through camp for about 10 days and just a lot of stuff adding up. I would have pulled out, but you never know if you're going to get the title fight again.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned Dana called you about switching over to AKA.
Right.
How was your relationship with Dana at this time?
I mean, I did what I had to do to keep cool, like with him. And, does anybody have a relationship with Dana?
Yeah, you just get the company line.
Yeah.
Well, some guys would go they'd go to dinner with him and stuff like that. Were you part of that?
He's always talking business, regardless. And how many times have I heard a manager or a fighter, I'm in good with them, and then 2 fights later, they're pissed at him, So, I don't think anybody. They're gonna do what they have to do to get what they want.
They're going to do what's best for them always.
Yeah, always.
Now,
So
I was just going to mention, and maybe Michael slow me down, but with Couture, you probably got a little bit of the business end because Randy did butt heads with the UFC a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he sends you to AKA where he would have similar problems with AKA where it's the bottom line is if you're smart, like AKA has, a head on their shoulders. You had that influence. Why did he send you there?
They got Fitch over there.
I have no idea. And my problem was it was kind of like, all right, well, he's the boss, man. I'm just going to do that. But I was on a 42-42 contract. Go to San Jose and live off $42,000 a year. Yeah. It doesn't fucking work.
No.
And so that's kind of, I won the Clay Guida fight, but then, I lost, and it was just new camps and I started to get into other stuff like remodeling a house and trying to flip that house. And, cause I made decent money, but it's not the money that you feel like, you're supposed to make being the best in the world. Right.
And it's over. Like if you don't fight again, you better go start, going to a headhunter.
Like a couple $100,000, people are like, oh, a couple $100,000, that's good money. Well, how about the coaches? How about taxes? How about, like at the end of the day, you got to pay your manager 10%, coaches 10%, your training camp costs, your gym fees. I mean, it adds up, and a couple $100,000.
A nutritional coach, at the next level. You talked about a strength and conditioning guy. That's
like I probably fought in a year 2 title fight, 2 main event pay-per-view title fights, and my 1099 from Zuffa was maybe around 250.
Oh,
yeah. Then that's
I bought those pay-per-views. Yeah.
Yeah. But you kind of get to understand or at least see some of the thinking behind like the Fitch lawsuit that we talked about, things like that. It's like
have you heard any about that? I know Fitch is saying like if you fought in that time period after 2010, like you're gonna get some money at some point. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but
yeah, what they're doing is 2010 to 2017. They're trying to go after the UFC because they created, it's called a monopsony. Yeah. Not monopoly. It's a monopsony. And, just basically saying that they took away, all the competition and our ability to get fair deals because, they created it that way,
Yeah.
Nope. What do you think? How much you want? How much you think? Hey, this is my number. Nope, it's going to be 42.
Yeah, right. And and then
what was Frankie making?
I think Frankie on the first title fight against BJ Penn, he was at 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least give me even. Make it even.
I mean, everybody's their own case. The bottom line is Frankie's in New York. I'm sure Frankie's got the same problems that Gray has getting through a campaign. Everybody and stuff. That's not great money. 8,000 more.
Yeah. You know what the key is? Moving to Indiana. It's a lot cheaper.
Right. Yeah.
So great. What was it like rolling with Jon Fitch?
Here's the whole deal with me. I was pretty smart with my money. Like, I had kind of nice cars, nothing crazy. Like, I had, I splurged and it was like a car that's like 38 grand. Okay. Yeah. But, like I put a lot of my stuff away into real estate, and I lived more broke than I could have, but in the long run, it paid off. Yeah. Just being smart, putting it into retirement. And then once you calculate that, so, 200 grand, you pay your managers, you pay your agents, you pay, pay. Then you put stuff into retirement. Then you put it into a little real estate. Then you put it into wherever you have. Then you're living off like 40 grand a year.
Great. You're literally probably less than 1% of the entire fight community that is responsible enough to do that, and it's because you got a family, and you're not a big drinker, and you're not out using drugs.
Yeah,
not that we know of.
I just never felt like I could be flashy because we're not getting paid flashy money.
Great. Now, my thought about this was what I'd like to see the UFC do. I know this lawsuits are doing is great, but when they sold for 4.2 billion, take that 0.2 or whatever, and if somebody fought in the UFC 10 times, they get some form of a small pension. If you fought there 15 times, you get a little more, maybe 3,000 a month. If you fought 20 times, you get 4,000, something like that. That's how the NFL, the more, if you're invested, if you were there for, 3 full seasons, you get a certain amount. Now we don't do seasons, but if you fought there 3 times a year for 4 years, that'd be, you know what I mean? That's something. Fought 12 times, 15. I would love to see like that, where people people who actually, I hate seeing fighters who fought there for 15 times and they're broken. They're still out trying to, do seminars right now to get by to live. And that's not right, man. They help build this organization, and that would be very minimal. The UFC could put a big thing in like escrow account. And they could get interest off and just pay people with the interest for the next 30 years. I think they should do something like that, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's everybody's opinion, but they're not going to do that because they got number crunchers and they want to make the most they can, which, I think it's going to bite them in the butt in the long run. They just got that class action passed. It was probably about a year ago, to where it is going to trial or whatever it is. And, it's interesting.
Well, that's my thought. Like I'm saying, I think they're going to pay more in the long run. And to me, it'll be the same problem. You're going to give a bunch of fighters, here's a check for 100,000. Well, they'll go buy a new jet ski or boat or whatever the hell they'll buy, and they'll still be hurting and 2 years later they'll be hurting again. I'm like, man, set some up where they get money, every month. Not a lot, but something to take care of these people, man. It is. I think it makes sense, but that's just my opinion. I don't know.
And here's why I feel like the UFC sold for $4.5 billion was there's no rules. You make the rules. There's no laws protecting us. Yeah, we have laws
Monopoly
to protect us with like blood tests and whatnot, but they make the rules. If they could get a guy to fight for $100 on a main event pay-per-view, they could do that. There's no rules against that, but it wouldn't look good. But, that was the purchase price. I think it was because of that it was a high purchase price. You make the rules. I mean, come on.
So let's kind of come full circle here. AKA, you start with the new gym, AKA. Do they accept you right away, or do you have to kind of go through a gauntlet?
So I fought Clay Guida, and I wanted to still do my own like type of training. I definitely went into AKA to spar. Everybody was great. It's a top-notch gym. I love all the guys there, but at the time I just wanted to do my own thing. I had just gotten out of a gym, just gotten out of a crazy breakup with, a coach. I didn't want to jump back into like a person controlling me or what I thought, might be. And Clay Guida was a weird fight, and then the guys that, and I was jumping all over the place, like all over the Bay Area, to get training here, to get training there, and to go to AKA. And then, after the Clay Guida fight, they kind of talked to me, like, hey, we feel like you need to be training here more. And, I did. And that was the TJ Grant camp. And that TJ Grant camp, it was basically me and Jon Fitch. We fought about the same time. He was going up against Josh Berkman, and I was going up against TJ Grant. They thought Jon Fitch is a great TJ Grant look. I'm a good Josh Berkman look. You guys spar 3 times a week, basically. And we did. I mean, it was 8 weeks of Bob Cook. Actually, he made an announcement after one of our like sparrings, and he was just like, he told the team, he's like, you guys wouldn't believe the sparring these guys had, and just like day after day after day. And he was just like, you could sell tickets to this fight. This is how you have to train and blah, blah, blah. And we were just basically beating the shit out of each other. I remember like just being coming out of practice, like sparring Jon, like what the fuck? And he was too, like I would rock him, he would rock me. And it was a brutal camp in that aspect. And, I'm always kind of curious if that kind of played a little toll, going into the fight. Cause, TJ Grant, he did a great job. He caught me changing to southpaw, and he threw a right hand, like right down the middle. And,
now, did you think it was a little bit of bad karma there going on too? Because Berkman called Fitch, if I'm not mistaken, too, right?
Yeah. I mean, dude, we battled that camp, me and Jon. I mean, it definitely brought us closer together, but like
you may have left something in the gym there.
Yeah, we definitely left a little bit in the gym that camp.
AKA was kind of known for that. Like guys having to pull out because they're injured. I mean, Bob Cook, he never had a soft road for anybody.
Yeah. And, I really feel like they have the flexibility up there. They do spar hard, but they all were, allowed to pull back a little bit, to take a day off, and to be smart about their training. But me and Jon, we just never backed down like from a day of sparring with each other. It was kind of like we would hobble in there at times, like already beat up, and we would spar every round, like with each other. And it was a brutal camp.
So let's talk about the TJ Grant fight for a second. So it's UFC 160, May 25th, 2013. And this fight, whoever won it was determined to have a title bout right after. TJ Grant is 20-5. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, all at 155, and he came down from 170. You're 12-1-1. And, it's probably the first time in a fight that you weren't the bigger of the two combatants.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he might've been a little bit bigger. I know going into it, he was a durable cat. It was going to be one of those like grinders. And, I wanted to be prepared. And that's kind of why I went with Jon, day in, day out is he's a grinder and he's durable. And I felt like it was a good look, and it was probably too good of a look.
So TJ wins the fight, and it's actually his last fight.
Going into that, so when we started to fight, like I remember just landing the heaviest punches I've ever, landed in my life. Like I remember a couple times I faked an overhand, but came with an uppercut.
Yeah.
And just watching his eyes roll back a couple times. Like there was times I was like, he's not there mentally, and I was landing the hardest punches, it was bad. And I pulled back because he wasn't going down. And about that time, I switched to my southpaw stance because I was messing around with it. But instead of moving like forward, I moved back. And he might have saw that with my Clay Guida fight, and he clipped me. But after that, I'm pretty sure that from what I've heard is he got a lot of problems like from that time that we fought
from those punches.
Yeah, I think he was I think you were probably 1 or 2 punches away from making him quit.
Yeah.
And the concussion that he suffered in that fight ended his career.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never fought again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was just hitting his groove too.
Yeah.
You know, and I would have loved to have seen him, you know, keep going.
Yeah, and versus Emerson.
Wow.
You know, and that changed me as well. You know, that changed my, you know, a lot of my career, you know, just because, again, I wasn't used to getting half my paycheck. And that's when I really started to, like, I remember going into that fight, I had to win to buy this house. Like, I needed that other part of that check, right? So I had to win to buy that house. And once I lost, like, I still bought the house. I still figured it out. And, you know, that kind of put me in a hole, you know, just stuff that we go through. Right. I mean, it's not like, I'm not trying to make excuses.
It's the truth. It screws your head up.
Yeah. The life that you live. I mean, it wasn't a huge deal or, you know, I wasn't, of course I stress about it, but, you know, it's just kind of interesting, the backstory of, like, you know, a training camp and, you know, like #1 contender fights and you know, it wasn't like we're making millions of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know.
Right. I don't think anybody can understand the pressure and the stress on that. I always tell people about the worst thing of all time. When I fought for the Ultimate Fighter, when I fought Matt Serra, whoever won that fight got a title shot. But no, that you got $100,000 contract and $100,000 sponsorship. The loser basically got their show is like 10 grand. So you're looking at 200,000 plus a title fight, plus a car, plus all this. It's about $250,000, and the loser gets 10,000. Yeah. And I lost a split decision, you know, and I had all these different plans and things that, you know, we're going to do with this money. And just the, not just the pressure going into it, but afterwards, the devastation that, you know, I mean,
oh man,
just the bottom dropping out on everything you've been thinking about for the past 10 years, you know, it was life changing, you know? And so I can totally understand what you're talking about. That's just some people don't really even think about. And I don't think it's fair. I mean, it makes a lot of bitter people out of the whole situation that you're put in. I mean, not many people in this career happy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough after that happened to me. That was right when bonuses were starting to come out, and I said, "Dude, I mean, I've lost bigger fights than this. I don't care. I'm just swinging for the fences, and whatever happens from now on." And after that, I was able to win a bunch of bonuses. So I got lucky, man. But
you killed it with that.
That was a goal afterwards. I didn't care.
Yeah. You did your thing for sure. But with that TJ Graham fight, we just had a baby too. And we have the baby in our hotel room, and I'm trying to sleep for the fight, and the baby's up. My wife is breastfeeding, and it was good times, man. Fun, good memories.
Worth every second for your daughter listening. Every second was worth it. You couldn't imagine not wanting to sleep before a title fight.
No, I just want to take a minute to shout out TJ Grant too. You're talking about a guy that recognized that, you know, something wasn't right, walked away from the sport, still in his 20s on a 5-fight winning streak. Most fighters won't do that because they can't, like in terms of money or whatever. I don't know what his circumstances are, but my hat's off to him for, you know, making that decision.
He's got his own gym. TJ's got his own gym now.
Great guy. He is a great guy, and he went to work, you know, after that to take care of his family and you know, just a good human being.
Yeah. More power to him. Smart decision.
Good.
So, Gray, have you ever looked into like psilocybin or anything like that to help the neuroplasticity, like with your brain?
Yeah. I actually, you know, I've been doing it for the past couple months.
You've been microdosing?
Awesome. Yeah. You know, and then yes, I have been doing the microdosing. My wife is a functional practitioner. nutrition, medicines. So we're big into health. We're big into, you know, longevity. We eat, you know, a diet that helps, you know, brain growth, brain recovery. Nice. We, you know, I do, there's this one thing right here. This is called photobiomodulation. And you put this on your head and it's like red light. I'll show you real quick.
Real quick, did you say your wife's a functional what?
A functional practitioner, like medicine, nutrition practitioner. And that's basically, yeah, you put it on your head like that, and it's got the red lights, and then this goes up your nose, and it really helps with inflammation of your brain. And yeah, you know, we take a lot of supplements geared towards
man, good for
health.
you.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Love to see
my
people
wife,
take it.
you know, my wife, she graduated her master's degree and all that. You know, how to heal people through nutrition, how to work with doctors, both traditional and new kind of medicine, and you know, how to heal chronic illness through other ways than just medication. And yeah, there's a lot of information out there, and she's a genius with all that stuff. And we're big into you know, health. We're big into
how
nutrition.
how is the psilocybin microdosing been helping you?
You know, I never had problems with concussion issues, but I've always cared about my brain health, and I've always worked, you know, on my brain health. So maybe that's why. But you know, I do know that it's supposed to help create new pathways, right, that get damaged through concussions, and you know, it's all pretty interesting stuff. And you know, I'm taking it. I was never a huge guy who takes a protein powder and it's like, oh my God, this makes me feel great, I love this. You know, it's kind of like, all right, this might help a little bit. And you know, but the microdosing, like, I feel like when I do the microdosing, I'm really focused, I'm concentrating, and you know, it's interesting, like the way it, you know, just kind of gets your brain geared towards you know, concentration, focus, and it's all interesting stuff.
Yep. Nice. Hey, have you ever tried stem cells? Anything like that?
I never tried stem cells. I did a procedure once where it took my stem cells, you know, and we spun them and then we re-injected it. You know, but those are your old stem cells. So, I mean.
So you didn't feel like you got a great benefit of it. Okay. Yeah. That's cool.
So right around that time, like when you moved over to AKA, was Khabib Nurmagomedov, did he start making appearances there?
Yeah. Khabib was there, you know, and he was already a stud, and we got to train, you know, we got to train together. You know, he was a beast. He was coming up. You know, he would fly in for his camps, you know, and then he would head back to Russia.
Well, how do you stack up wrestling? Because, like, I mean, you got your pedigree. There's got to be a little bit of story there.
Yeah. We didn't train a lot together, but we trained a couple times, and you know, it was good goes. It wasn't anything that I felt as if, you know, I couldn't handle it. You know, it was more of like, yeah, just like, it wasn't really a big deal to me. Like, oh my God, this guy's so tough. It was like, yeah, he's, you know,
he's good.
He's pretty good. you know.
Well, we had Jon Fitch on. We had Jon Fitch on, and he said the two fighters that he would put in a category of having just like beyond human strength was yourself and Khabib.
Really?
And yeah, Jon Fitch is obviously known for his cardio, his endurance, just he's always in shape. And he said the thing with Khabib is you had to conserve your energy because if you didn't, he wore you down. And to me, that's shocking. Like a guy like Jon Fitch saying he wore me down because of like wasted energy, and you got to be real careful. But I think it's just maybe styles, because I mean you didn't have that problem with him, huh?
Khabib?
Yeah.
No, we didn't do a lot of sparring. We did a little bit more wrestling stuff. There was one camp where we were working together a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we never really had a chance to spar round after round after round. We just kind of worked, together. But again, what he's good at is what I'm good at as well. Cage takedowns, kind of grinding and him getting on top. And I'll give myself credit. I'm pretty hard to take down.
Did he get a takedown?
I don't think. No,
not even one.
But I popped his knee out one time when he fought Abel Trujillo. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he fought Abel, and he couldn't train almost half the camp because when we were wrestling, he wasn't giving up this one takedown with me. And he actually, like, I had him down to where I was about to get the takedown, and he was trying not to give it up. And it actually, he hurt his own knee just trying not to give up that takedown.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's a beast, but as far as like, the matchup, I mean, I can't tell you like how we didn't have a chance to train a lot, together, like that round after round after round. It would be like, all right, partner up for a round, and we would do jujitsu or whatever. And I'm not a big guy like, oh yeah, I beat him that round, so in practice, so I'm better than him. It doesn't work like that. We had some good goes. We had a couple flurries, and he proved that he was a beast.
He became a different fighter too. Like when you're talking, when he first started coming there, he was a decent fighter, but then when you see him a few bouts later, he really leveled up. In fact, I would even say at the beginning parts of their career, when Tony Ferguson and Khabib were supposed to meet up, had those fights happened, I think Tony would have been not a slight favorite. He kind of would have been.
Yeah. Yeah. He had a close relationship with Javier, and he did a really good job with Khabib. I like Javier. He's a great guy. And, he really helped Khabib out a lot because his dad couldn't come over a lot of times, and he kind of took over that place. And
that's cool.
When you have a person like that in your corner, that you have that connection with, it gives you, a lot of energy, and it was a good fit for him.
Did you ever go with Josh Koscheck?
Josh Koscheck had just left when I got up there.
Okay.
Yeah. We knew each other in college.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here, why don't we close with one more fight? Is that cool?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's go your TUF 18 finale. It's a hard one. November 30th, 2013. Let's close the trilogy out with Nate Diaz. You came in as a minus 125 favorite. Nate was a plus 115 underdog. Did this come about last minute? Because I know they were trying to push it for 5 rounds, and you had stated no.
Yeah. So what happened with that fight was you know, again, I'm just going into backstory and, you know, kind of what was going on with the camps. That was after my TJ Grant fight, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
So what happened was I closed on that house, had no money. This house was built in 1950. I thought what it needed was like, okay, I'm going to do the floors. I'm going to do the cabinets. I completely gutted it down to the bones, like the 2x4s, took all the drywall off, and I'm working on this house probably 8 to 12 hours a day, barely even going up to AKA, you know, and it's draining me of money, you know, remodeling it. And I had to take the fight. And, you know, even in the camp, I was still working on the house. I just couldn't stop. You know, everybody was like, great, you got to stop doing this. I was like, my kid, we were living at Luke Rockhold's apartment at the time, because he lived with us for a little bit. And then we bought the house and completely gutted this house. It wasn't livable. So me and my daughter and my wife are staying at Luke's house. I'm going over, trying to rush on this, like this house and try to remodel it, putting up drywall, like just grinding. Going back over to AKA, that was a 40-minute drive, trying to get some training in, come back over, work the rest of the night. So it was nuts, you know. And then they try to pull that 5 rounds on me like halfway through a camp, and I'm already like barely doing bare minimum, you know, like training. And yeah, dude, it's you know, it's stories you'll tell your kids, you know, the tough times and you know.
Are you living in that house now, or did you flip the house?
No, we sold that house. We remodeled it and we sold it. It was in Santa Cruz, California. Great house, but you know, just a little bit pricey up there.
Where are you living at now, Gray?
I'm in Michigan.
There you go, cool. Midwest.
Yeah, we got 13 acres out here.
Nice.
We got 13 acres out here. We got our, you know, horses. You know, my mom's out here. My sister's out here. You met my sister in Milwaukee.
I remember. What part of Michigan are you in?
We're in Grand Ledge, close to Lansing.
Okay, cool.
Are you working out still in the gym?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably help out with the Michigan State team.
Cool. So you're gonna go back to wrestling?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
You know, that was my first love. You know what? I definitely like to train and coach MMA. You know, I trained one guy out of Norway, so you know, I might go back there to help him out a little bit. But there's not a lot of MMA gyms around here, so you know, just
back to the basics.
Yeah,
that's cool. You also worked out with CB Dalloway.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you also work out with Drew Fickett at any time?
Never got a chance to work out with Drew Fickett. No. CB Dalloway, I knew him and Ryan Bader when they went to ASU.
Yeah, tough dudes. Both of them studs.
Yeah, Bader's done a great job with his career. You know, he really navigated it well, and you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. He went over to Bellator and made it right. Now, let me ask you, in terms of wrestling, when you said, you know, BJ Penn called and that was your first interest, but were you aware in Ohio you had like Coleman and Randleman and like there were other wrestlers,
Hammerhouse,
you know, previous to that? Was that an influence on you in any way, or did you just miss that out? I don't know.
No, like I remember watching a UFC in the 8th grade in my buddy's basement, and I was just like, these guys are insane. You know, we got people walking out with the cross and Royce Gracie, and
Joseph.
you know, and then after that, like I really didn't watch it at all. And then when I came back to Vegas, I started getting into the jiu-jitsu gym. And here's a point in my life when I knew I had to do it, because here's what happened was me and my buddy were about to go out drinking or whatever. And we were watching a UFC fight, and Matt Hughes there was a couple of us. Matt Hughes was on it. You know, I probably had a couple beers in me, and you know, everybody's like asking me, hey man, could you beat Matt Hughes? He was a wrestler too. You know, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, man. He was a 2-time All-American. I was a 3-time All-American. But I remember waking up the next morning like, oh, you piece of shit. You're talking about stuff that you don't know about. Now I have to do this, because I'm not going to be that guy on a bar stool talking about like, oh, wow, I could have done this. I felt like the biggest, you know, scumbag for, you know,
Shit
like
talking,
talking myself up like that. Like, oh yeah, he's a 2-time All-American. I'm, you know, a couple beers, a couple 12-ounce curls, and now I'm a tough guy. But I remember that was a point where I was like, dude, I got to put up or shut up now. You know, and I got with Couture and you know, like really grinded.
That's awesome, man.
What was your parents? Where was their stance throughout your career?
My dad wanted me to be he tried talking me out of it. You know, he was like, you should be a manager, like manage these guys, don't get beat up. But then once I got in it and they watched my passion and they watched, you know, that I was able to do a job that was you know, pretty good, and you know, I was good at it. They you know, they definitely didn't like it, but
they rallied behind you.
They always rallied behind me.
That's awesome.
So the third Nate Diaz fight, like obviously it's 1-1 going into it.
Yeah.
You guys were talking a little bit of shit at the second one.
Yeah.
Did that kind of come full circle starting at weigh-ins or pre-weigh-ins, or was it respectful?
I remember after I beat him, anytime we saw each other, it was kind of, you know, even his brother, they were just like staring at me, and wherever we were, if it was at a club, wherever it was, you know, like they had a lot of hard feelings because, you know, I did beat him, and I didn't care, but yeah. And then we had that third one, and there wasn't really a lot of shit talking. Yeah, it was
how does
it was a quick
how does
fight.
that even come about then? Like, for instance, like, did you think he requested the fight? Did you request the fight, or was it just
no, they wanted to close out that trilogy, you know, and we were on the card anyways, and the main event pulled out, and we were the main event, and you know, they just, yeah, they wanted to do that.
So like when you saw each other at the clubs, did you guys almost get into a fight, or did you just kind of put it in rearview mirror?
You know, it was just one of those, like, they kind of stayed on apart, you know, staring at me, and, you know, I'd be staring at them or whatever. And then, you know, after he beat me, then they were nice to me again. You know, they see me. Hey, what's up, Rick? Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you.
You know, but you know, of course, you know, he beat me, and I congratulated him, and you know, it's all history now.
That's cool.
Was I prepared to go up against Nate Diaz at the time? Probably not, you know, but that's what happens. That's
the sport, brother.
MMA. Yeah, that's the sport, you know, and I'm just glad that he had a chance to, you know, to make some real money, you know.
Yep.
And he's He's doing anybody. I don't care who it is, man. If I hate you, if I love you, if you can make money off this sport, I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I was thinking about it. You know, it is one of those things where anywhere you cut it, the two richest people off of the last whatever many years of the sport, besides like the Fertittas or, you know, that they were investors, right? But Dana White made $500 million.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan made $500 million. Two guys who never fought.
Yeah.
You know, that's the richest people that the sport created. That ain't fair.
Yeah.
I'm sure Connor's up there. I don't know about the.
Yeah, Connor might is the third $500 million person probably.
Yeah.
And he made
well, he made most of his money off other stuff, though,
Whiskey.
right?
Yeah, but it was based on because of his career, though. So
Yeah,
Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, you know, hey, I'm getting ready to pimp slap an old man in a bar if that makes money.
Hey,
Yeah, right.
Miguel, you'll just end up in jail. So that won't help.
That's my difference. Yep.
You know, Grant,
yeah.
some of the things that also stand out is you go down to 145, and I know we're trying to wrap this up. You go down to 145. When was the last time you had made 145? Like, was it high school?
High school, yeah.
That's what I figured.
High school. So
you go down to 45.
yeah, you know, I had to be really disciplined. You know, and again, we're big into health, and we're big into you know, keeping healthy and just doing a lot of stuff to you know, to eat right. And you know, that's the only way I could have done it, was just being disciplined. And the first time I made it, that was tough though.
Yeah, that was against
always the worst.
Yeah, it was against Fernando Bruno, I believe.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talk about it in several of our podcasts about how the UFC will put you up against people that are like, you got a whole locker room full of people, but you got to put me up against my friend. And Gray had started working out at Nova União, and his first bout at 145 is Fernando Bruno.
Yeah.
And you guys had trained together before.
Yeah. So I met Jose Aldo when he fought Kenny Florian and I fought Edgar. And I just, you know, I'm a big person on, like, if a person's a good person, you know, I want to help them. So after that, you know, I hit up his coach. He was going up against Chad Mendez. You know, I was like, hey man, if you guys need help, you know, I'll come down there and help you guys. And you know, Aldo is just one of those humble, good people that came from nothing. And you know, I went down there for like a month to help him out. And Bruno, he trained there, you know, and then there was a couple other times I flew down there to help him out for like an Edgar fight. And yeah, so Andre
Penderas.
Penderas, he after I beat him, you know, he was an awesome guy, and he took me under his wing, like while I was in Rio. And you know, he was just you know, he was great. He could have been a dick, like, oh, you took the fight or whatever, but you know, he hugged me and he's like, we still love you, Gray, you know. So
cool.
Like you know, another thing, and like I know we're keeping going, and I'm apologizing. Yeah. Another thing, like, you're 38 years old, and you had mentioned Chad Mendez when he was going up against Jose Aldo. Was that the bout that got canceled when they canceled the entire event? Because they were supposed to fight twice. One time they canceled the whole card. It wasn't just John Jones where the whole card was canceled.
I was supposed to be on that card, the LA card, and I didn't go down to help him train. The Chad Mendez, I helped him when he knocked him out.
Okay, so it was the second time.
Yeah.
So you're 38 years old. They put you in against Teruto Ishihara, who is training full-time at Team Alpha Male. And Chris, as you know, that catch wrestling style from Japan makes it very difficult for a lot of people to deal with, and you handled it really well. I was shocked at how well you looked in that fight.
Yeah, I really feel like I could have beat pretty much anybody at 145, and then but Ryan Hall, because he beat me, and it was just one of those. I just couldn't figure him out. And
do you wish you would have went to the ground with Ryan?
Yeah. So here's what happened in the back room. Our plan was to go to the ground. One of my coaches asked the ref when he comes back to talk to us, "Hey, if he keeps going to the ground, what are you going to do?" And he says, "Well, I'm going to ding him with a point.
Yeah.
It's called timidity.
Yeah.
I'm going to ding him. That's called timidity." And then we look at each other, and my hands are taped up, and we basically change up the game plan, like, let him go down if he's going to get dinged. And obviously it didn't happen. And then by round 2, it's kind of like
So that's what you were jawing at the ref about. Like,
yeah,
you gonna take the point?
yeah. Yeah. So in the back room, that's kind of what
your whole game plan changed based on what the referee told you.
Which is stupid, which is idiotic on our part, right? And but that's just, again, that's just a backstory. It just,
I don't know if I'd pass on that, though. Based on what he's saying, he's going to take a point, because you're going to get a point.
That's what we thought. And that's how it goes. Those fights happen quick, and you're just like, by the time you realize stuff, sometimes it's halfway through the second round, and you're like,
too late now.
Now I gotta change the game plan again and figure out another way and try to knock him out or whatever it is, So it was a weird fight, and there wasn't a lot to prepare off him with. I mean, he did the Eminari roll.
Yeah, the Eminari roll.
And we had that down pat, like, he just couldn't get that. And, but we were definitely confused and kind of messed up by changing up the game plan last minute like that.
All right, man. Great. You've given us a ton of time.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the time, man. Like I said, a fascinating, interesting career. Love watching your fights. I can't thank you enough for your time.
I love
bro.
watching
really
your fights.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Definitely.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. And Gray Maynard, I just want to say, thank you for all the title fights with Edgar, all that stuff. Those should be Hall of Fame fights.
Absolutely.
If they're not, it's not, it's Dana and his ego have to be moved out of the way. It's just as simple as that. There's no other way about it.
Why do you think that's not in the UFC Hall of Fame? You had mentioned that there was some kind of like a rub between yourself and the organization.
Well, I've just been kind of speaking out on like fighter pay, and I don't want anybody to go through like what I had to go through, like with the stress about the low pay with the title fights and the pay-per-views and just I want stuff to change. There's a lot of money in this sport, and it's all going to a couple people, and we should be able to get what we're worth. And if he doesn't, and if that's what he does, if he wants to do stuff like that to spite me, I don't care. The sun comes up tomorrow. Like I know, like what I did in my career, I don't need a pat on the back from anybody. And I'm glad people enjoy it. I'm glad people still watch it. And, I mean, whatever happens, and that's great. But I'm not stressing about that type of stuff. That's not who I am, Hall of Fames and if it happens, great. If not, great. The sun comes up tomorrow either way.
Wow.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
we just got done with the Gray Maynard interview, Mike, and you know, we went long again, almost 3 hours. I think worth every bit of it, because you're talking about. I think he's a serious dude too. So we just got a lot of info out, man. Good stuff.
We kept pushing, and he kept coming forward, and that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what a real interview is all about. You got to know the subject material and help the listener understand who it is we're talking about. What we need, Miguel, we need like, share, subscribes. Guys on iTunes, write anything you want. We don't care. You know, when I say stuff about Miguel or myself, we don't care. Just give us 5 stars. That's all we ask. And, you know, maybe Chris, or maybe we have a contest where, you know, the best comments, Chris will go to their house, Miguel. Maybe that could be the contest we run.
We could do it like a 10-second clip of Chris choking the winner out. So things like that. But I don't want to take away from Gray Maynard. We just wrapped up a long interview, so I don't mean to cut you short, but we've been going along with him, and I think money with him, because I think we had a serious competitor, but he told us behind the scenes stuff. And I don't think he was complaining either. He was just like, look, this is the way it is. It's like, you know, I didn't win my bonus money and I couldn't remodel the house I was working on. It's like the trials and tribulations of the guys that didn't get to the big money, man. It's all plain and simple in this interview, plain for you to see. And Gray Maynard gave us that. Thank you, Gray. Yeah,
you know, and Miguel, like, the thing is, it's like, you know, someone's feelings are hurt when they lose a fight. And he kind of made it come full circle where, no. Now I got to look at my wife and kids and say, yeah, the remodeling that we need to have done. Well, I just lost that fight. Yeah, it's not happening. In other words, it's all my fault. Like the type of pressure.
And it's fun. We didn't bring it up, and Chris a lot of the time does, but it's there too. Is that same old feeling of before the fight, you have to be convinced that you're going to win. So the idea of like even planning for not getting your win money sometimes wasn't in the works here, because it's not part of the mindset of a top athlete. So that's crazy the way everything plays in. But Gray, thank you very much.
Yeah,
a real pro through and through, and I think he gave us a real trip down what it's like to be.
Well, that's the first time we ever got to look at a true financial situation of a fighter. Like we always say, hey, you know, would this fight pay? What did that fight pay?
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of taboo in a lot of fighter circles. And we continuously pull that out of athletes, but he even took it up a step further. Like, yeah, I'm trying to flip houses, trying to actually make a living, trying to make this a career. And, you know, I'm headlining events and, you know, making, you know, 32, 40. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, Gray Maynard, out of the ballpark. Thank you very much.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.